Welcome. This is Lunar Living, a weekly conversation of lived astrology and cyclical wisdom that expands our connection with ourselves, each other, and all of life. Wherever you are, let's take a deep breath together and arrive just as we are. We're not here to predict life, we're learning how to grow in rhythm with it.
And each week we'll explore the current astrology, the wisdom of the moon, and the energetic invitations unfolding around us, translating the language of the cosmos into practical guidance that you can actually live. And together we will help you understand not only what is happening in the sky, but why it matters, how it might be showing up in your relationships, your emotions, your body, and your everyday life.
We'll share our own experience and learn how to embody the wisdom moving through us now, because transformation doesn't happen just through information. It requires our engagement. I'm Colina Casa, founder of Sat Mom and Lunar Living. For decades, I've explored what it means to live in rhythm with my own body, with the moon, with nature, and with others. I weave cyclical wisdom and embodied practices with relational awareness so we can remember our wholeness and expand our capacity for meaningful connection.
And I'm Eleni Prinsloo, astrologer healer and intuitive coach. And I love translating the wisdom of astrology into grounded, practical insights that help people navigate life with greater clarity, trust, and self-awareness. And together we will explore the gifts, the challenges, and the invitations held with each week's cosmic landscape, making the heavens feel personal, accessible, and deeply supportive. We're so grateful that you're here.
Welcome to Lunar Living. Welcome, everyone, to Closing the Eclipse Portal. We're talking today about the lunar eclipse at the full moon, August 28th, which may begin August 27th, depending where you are in the world. In the Eastern time zone, it becomes exact just after midnight on the 28th. So we're just going to call it the 28th for now. Welcome, Eleni. Thank you so much for having this great conversation today. So I think we're going to start off by just recapping how the eclipse portal opened, what energies, themes are here with us for this 2-week window, and then what culmination is going to come at the end of it with the full moon eclipse in Pisces. Yes.
Yep.
I'm just noting the sun is still in Virgo for all of this.
Yeah. So we've moved out of Leo, right? The sun was in Leo, and now we're moving into Virgo. And but what I want to do is I want to touch on some important points before we actually get into the eclipse specifically. And we've had a lot happen in the month of August, right? Like there was a lot of shifts and changes and things, and like the whole July, June, the whole year really has been like a crazy conglomerate of like these astrological aspects and anomalies and just these rare planetary configurations and all the outer planets moving signs and Chiron moving signs and all these things that have been happening, and we're in the year of the fire horse, and there's just so much that is happening on a unconscious, subconscious, as well as conscious level, that it can be really hard for us to sort of ground or hold onto or grasp onto the amount of things that actually have shifted or changed or are busy forming within us and also within the collective. So when we think of the month of August, we started with Chiron going retrograde in Taurus at 0 degrees. Venus moved into Libra, Mercury moved into Leo, Mars moved into Cancer, and then at the same time we had this the new moon solar eclipse in Leo, and the nodes of fate has also shifted out of Virgo and Pisces and now back into Leo and Aquarius. So all of these events are not just simply things that have been kind of like happening outside of us or around us, but it's been a sort of reorientation within ourselves and within our inner worlds. And we may not necessarily have have really kind of taken away, or we may not necessarily have been able to see the larger picture at play because it's just been so much and so potentially also just really subtle. So when Chiron kind of touched on that 0 degree, we were able to feel into those places within us that are still struggling with worth and, you know, resources and value and stability and our embodiment and our relationship with the earth and our inner sense of worth, and those themes may have been something that we have slowly started to kind of peel back, you know, the layers of. We were able to kind of see these things a little bit more slowly, but we're noticing little hints, little pieces, little parts of where this, you know, old version of us may still have wounds or a distorted relationship with our own worth. And then Venus moved into Libra, and it was about, you know, noticing where are we abandoning ourselves and where are we people pleasing and where are we losing our identity inside of our relationships, whether this is with our family, our friends, you know, community, loved ones, marriage, partnership, all of these different elements and layers. Mercury then moved into Leo. Our mind started to shift, our voice started to take on a different flavor, where when it was in you know, Cancer or in Gemini, you know, it had a different feel to it, and now it's more the voice, the mind, the, you know, the mental sort of expression, the translation of us. There's a sense of wanting to be more creative, more expressive, more authentic. You know, what's true for me? What's alive for me? Am I communicating from a more empowered place? And then Mars moving into Cancer is sort of, you know, this aligning our actions with our emotions. What am I willing to protect? Where, you know, what brings me emotional fulfillment? And then the eclipse itself was this sort of turning point where we were being asked to let these old things kind of now fall away so that we can plant the seed for a new, more authentic expression of self, not necessarily changing ourselves completely and becoming a new version, but more a really like just genuinely authentic version, a version of us that no longer needs to perform necessarily, but a version of us that really wants to just be exactly who we are without the need to pretend or to play these various roles that, you know, we have assigned to ourselves. So there's been a lot of kind of deeper initiations, invitations into seeing the old self, the old beliefs, the old habits, the old wounds, the old ways to relate to life, work, you, me, you know, society at large. And with the nodes also shifting from Virgo and Pisces, it was also this sort of bigger invitation, like, okay, you know, can I surrender control? Can I release the perfectionism in me? Can I, you know, stop analyzing everything to such a point where I become so rigid in my way of being that I struggle to trust, that I struggle to have faith, that I struggle to surrender into something bigger. And so it, you know, this whole sort of axis, this whole month, this whole peak of it being on the eclipse on the 12th, which is obviously the, you know, the new moon eclipse in Leo, was, can I stop trying to perfect myself? Can I surrender? But, you know, can I contribute to something bigger? And then at the same time, can I actually expand and reclaim these lost parts and pieces of self that I potentially have, just scattered across time and space. And can I bring more of me home? And so that's sort of what we've been in. And it may not necessarily have landed completely because it's just sort of been so up in the air, kind of, happening within and also behind the scenes on such a sort of unconscious, subconscious level. So I just wanted to bring that in and just kind of give people an opportunity to just see that and feel that for themselves and just kind of go, yeah, that's true. Like these are all the things that, I've been sitting with, but I haven't really been able to give it language, or I maybe haven't been able to really make complete sense of it, but it's there, but I also don't quite know how to say that, or this is the thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there are a lot of different energies that have been transmuting over this past year and everything. So if you're kind of new to, you know, the science of astrology, this isn't the astrology of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Really, since 2012, and more so recently, the astrology has become more and more powerful. So I just want to put that out there. If you're kind of like, this is, the first decades that you're kind of looking into astrology, this isn't the same astrology that we used to have back in the, I want to say old world. And that goes along with the, people saying that the 90s were like the old millennium. So we can take how we feel about that. But the astrology is definitely different. And it's more, even though more of the outer planets are involved, it's hitting us so much more personally, consciously, our our hidden agendas. So in the yoga world, shadows and these ways that we cultivate energy from the world around us are called hidden agendas because we're not even conscious of the way that we're going about claiming energy. And human capacity has the energy to claim directly from source. We don't have to get it from other people. So it's been calling us to see kind of how are we pirating energy from other people, and how are we allowing other people to pirate energy from us, and calling us back into a sovereign energetic balance within ourselves, because we can't tend to all the things and share our energy with this and that unless we've really tended this ground and notice, Virgo and Libra, our own inner balances, and lay claim to them again. And all of the things that we've been noticed, how we subtly get pushed around by these energies, or how we're not sitting fully in our self-worth, and that can cause energies to come in that can kind of batter us as they come through. But when we are receiving the lessons that the astrology has been giving us of like really grounding into self-worth, and taking the time and the effort to allow the stuff that's eroding our self-worth or in the way of just remembering our worthiness. And that's one lesson that's it has been on hand. There have been more. Where do we have to consciously go in and disassemble it? And where can we just, release our hold on the old way of being? So, Virgo asks us what inside needs to be tended and cared for. And Pisces asks us, what can we just surrender? So just
Yeah.
bringing those 2 points in. That's,
Yeah, exactly. So what I want to do quickly is just share the chart of the actual eclipse as well with everybody so that they can just kind of have a quick look at it. So this is happening on the 28th. As you can see, this is the chart for the 28th, and here we have the sun we have the sun at 4 degrees. It's in opposition to the moon at 4 degrees. We have, that making a T square with Uranus sitting at 5 degrees in Gemini. Mercury is in Virgo. Mercury is rules Virgo, so it's in its home sign, and it is also conjunct the Sun at that time. And then, of course, this is also in conjunction with the South Node and the North Node over here. And then we have different aspects with the different planets that are all kind of happening between, Neptune, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus are still forming this kind of, supportive connection. We have Saturn that is still in opposition to Venus. We have Jupiter in a trine with Saturn. And we have also, it's a very wide conjunction, but still, nevertheless, you can kind of look at it from a, outside of just a fire sign, like trine kind of combination. You've got Saturn also in a wide trine with Lilith, and then, Jupiter. And so there's a lot of different things that are happening again. But it's the key thing to remember is that, yes, it's happening at 4 degrees, which was also in relation to the basket. So those same points are also being activated, and other previous full moons and new moons and all of these different things. So whenever planets are sitting at particular degrees, like these points get reactivated and the energy becomes more, it kind of like builds a little bit around that particular area or this point. And then, of course, we also have Mars in a trine to the moon on that day. And so there is a lot happening with regards to just the different aspects and the different planets, because there's not a single planet that is not somehow involved in this final eclipse, right? Like all the planets are kind of speaking to each other. And to kind of just translate that into a very basic language, it's like all parts of us are in communication with each other. There's not a single part of us or archetype in us that is not trying to communicate or create something or be seen or be heard or be expressed. So what I find fascinating about this particular eclipse is that it is actually happening in Virgo and Pisces, which is essentially where, the nodes of fate have been for a year and a half. So it's almost like we have this kind of last little hurrah where we've been able to kind of, shift past our South Node into our Dharma, into our Karma, like that evolution of the nodes. And now we get to sort of become more aware of the influence that has had on our expression, our personality, as well as our psyche and our subconscious and our inner world, right? Because it is activated by the sun and the moon and Uranus. And so with Mercury also there, we're able to translate these insights. Like we're able to kind of see maybe what has really been happening for us over the last year and a half. So, a full moon generally represents a culmination, right? Like it's this point of visibility, something comes to fruition, something becomes impossible almost to ignore. But this is mutable energy. This isn't like what it was with the previous eclipse, where it was in a fixed sign, which is, Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and off my brain, Taurus. So, these are fixed signs. When they decide something, that's it. There's no going back. It's happened, it's anchored, it's rooted, it's made material, it's made real. Like, it's like a fixed sign. Scorpio, it's like birth, death, like it's there. And cardinal signs are different. Cardinal signs, it's like, oh, okay, I have the idea, I've got the inspiration, I know what I'm doing, and now I'm going to take action on it. I'm going to lead it forward. I'm going to actually, align myself to making this thing fixed so that it materializes. But with Gemini, it's very, and Sagittarius and Virgo and Pisces, it's it's kind of like it goes between, it floats, you know, there's a sense of it can go either way. So the mutable, you know, energy is adapting, like it's integrating, reorganizing, transitioning, changing perspectives. So, you know, when a full moon eclipse is happening in a mutable sign, it's not necessarily like complete. Like, okay, you've now identified your new identity, you've identified your self-worth issues, you know, like you've kind of dealt with all your stuff, and now you are just you're complete, you've completed the metamorphosis, and now you're embodied as this completely new thing. But it's rather a process of conclusion. So it's like you've concluded what is no longer working, what is no longer in alignment. You've been able to see the insights, the wisdom, the information, the changes, the shifts, the patterns, the habits, you know, the evolution that you've gone through. So you're able to actually see that from a place of conclusion. So you've reached the end of a cycle by understanding it, right? And Mercury will help us to see what that cycle is and what we've been able to go through. We can now give it real tangible language and information and insight, and actually make it conscious, right? But it's not necessarily the end of the journey. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it is like, okay, now it's this. So we can see something differently, we understand something differently, we recognize the pattern, and we now, because of all of this awareness, we can now choose to no longer participate in this thing in the same way that we would have before. This is where the completion happens. With Uranus also adding to the mix, right? Uranus helps us to kind of create tension, to break free, to break out of, to release ourselves from the controlling, or, you know, the perfectionistic or the analytical or the very super practical way of doing things. Uranus brings in disruption, awakening, surprise, liberation, new information, sudden changes in perspective, right? So Virgo Sun, Mercury will say to us, okay, what needs to be understood or discerned or organized? And Pisces Moon in, you know, sitting next to, also I know that she's next to Hecate, that's kind of like what needs to be surrendered, what needs to be trusted, what needs to be felt. And then Uranus is saying, okay, great, that's amazing, but what happens if neither one of these answers actually is the thing that's going to liberate you? So it's a really, really, really interesting energy, because it's kind of like you're standing in between all of these different worlds and all of these different revelations and all of these different insights, and yet, irrespective of what the information is, Uranus is kind of saying, well, how much of this awareness is actually going to make you break out of your comfort zone? How much of this is really going to get you to step up and to shake things loose? You know, what if neither one of these things is the thing that you need to really just, you know, let shit go? So it's a really interesting full moon eclipse, because of the fact that it is in so much mutability. There's confusion. It can go either way. It can go upwards, it can go backwards, we can adapt, we can become unstable, we can surrender, we can avoid, we can be flexible, we can be indecisive. There's so much that can happen, and the thing is, the choice is still alive in us, right? That this is the moment where Uranus opens up and says, okay, well, you know, you have an opportunity to respond. But instead of trying to surrender completely and basically just say, okay, well, you know, I'm just going to surrender and I'm just going to let things go and I'm not going to take action on anything and I'm just going to trust. okay? Or I'm going to completely, go into like the overactive, aspect of Virgo, which is like I want to know every single detail about every single thing so that I have the exact answer, so that I can make the best choice, so that I can control the situation to the point of strangulation. So there's no room, there's no gray area. And Uranus is saying, well, no, you need to have gray area. You need to allow the things that are there to simply be there without the need to, you know, like give, like basically surrender to the point where I don't know, like maybe bypassing, right? Like we're so in the space of, okay, I've seen this thing, but now I trust that, it's going to be removed from my life, but yet I'm still making the same choices. I'm still behaving the same. I'm still, doing the same things. So there's almost a sense of like, you're just expecting somebody else to come in and fix it or save it or rescue it. And then there's, of course, the other end of that, which is like, I'm going to control it so much that, I don't have room for flexibility. Whereas this particular full moon eclipse is inviting in deep, you know, discernment, deep flexibility, deep surrendering. And I don't mean surrender as in, bypassing and just kind of. So can you remain open whilst reality is changing? Can I not become fixed or attached or controlling, right? So it's an interesting kind of eclipse energy because it might not necessarily be this life altering, life shattering, eclipse experience where we think that everything that we've gone through is like it's just going to come to an end and we're just going to be this thing and this is just, like it's just going to happen. No, it's been building. 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 And we've been given opportunities to kind of to die reborn, die reborn, die reborn, die reborn, die reborn. And it's like, we're in the metamorphosis, we're in the chrysalis, we're in the mush, we're in the like, okay, so whilst my one, like caterpillar leg is dying, my other wing is being reborn, but I'm still not fully caterpillar and I'm still not fully, like butterfly, but I'm somewhere in between and I'm kind of trying to figure it out and I'm trusting, but I'm also understanding that there's a deeper purpose behind all of it. And so this energy is the energy of this sort of full moon eclipse is saying to you, can you be both and? Can you be both and? Can you be in a space of understanding, structure, practicality, but can you also be in a space of surrender and trust and faith?
Right. Because Virgo wants us to make use of what we've learned pretty immediately. But Pisces energy is still helping us understand, can we just stop managing the old way? Can we still just let that complete fully in the body? Like what's alive for me to lean into? Not totally clear yet. This full moon's not going to make everything totally clear. However, there will be some points that are very clear, just the exact forward motion and what is totally going to come of it's not clear yet because we're still like allowing what's totally complete to actually and completely leave the body.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit longer than all this energetic shifting going on, just really allowing the completions to happen in the body. So the nervous system's not getting charged up over the same things. Our minds aren't going in the same direction. Or if they are, we're aware and we're just kind of we're not diving into it like we were. And we're just kind of stepping away from that old process that used to hijack our nervous system and take us on a ride into an old story.
Yeah.
And every time we are noticing that, it's just coming more and more to completion. So allow those completions when it comes up, oh, this feels very like an old story. it feels engaged in my body. It's not failure, it's the process of that being less and less. So as we notice it, um, just remember you're not failing and you're exactly where you need to be, and keep leaning into don't let the old story engage with the body,
Yeah.
whatever that particular one is for you. And
Yeah.
self-worth is going to be in there because of the play with Venus, and Saturn's very much in there as far as have we created the right structure, discipline, foundations for ourselves. Mars is in the mix as far as you know um when the impetus for forward movement comes, is it totally aligned with who you are and how you feel? Because there's that Cancerian connection right there as well. So our feelings are not left behind either, but we're also, they don't run the whole show either.
Mm.
We're not victim to our feelings and orchestrating life around everybody else being victimized by how we feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that, this I believe this whole month with the eclipse ending the month in a way, right? It's like it's teaching us that evolution isn't linear.
Mm.
Sometimes like growth or evolution, it's forwards and sideways and backwards and upwards and breakthroughs and breakdowns. And, sometimes like things may appear to be regression, but it's also just reorganization. And there is this like sometimes where there is confusion, it can also just be like the disillusion of this really old mental structure that we have for ourselves or that we've created, right? So if we can allow for the space, for something like, or at least if we can give space to ourselves and everything that we've gone through, something different actually starts to emerge, right? Something more authentically us, something that is more connected to the version of us that we want to birth moving forward, right?
Mm.
And it's teaching us this whole month, all the eclipses, everything that we've gone through up until this point is teaching us that we cannot enter a new cycle, a new season, a new version, a new life, a new creation period if we insist on carrying our old identities around or our old definitions around of who we are, what that is. So this Leo eclipse helps us to, the new moon Leo eclipse, it helped us to play, dream, feel into this new version of us. But at the same time, it's also asking us to release these old roles and plays and identities and things, that we've kind of built up, the scaffolding, if you will, that we've built around, the structure of our lives, ourselves, what we think, who we are, and then kind of giving us this threshold space of mutability where we can live in between the open spaces because we're not quite here and we're not quite there and we're no longer who we were, but we're not fully yet who we are. And that's okay because it doesn't, this final eclipse doesn't necessarily complete the story, but it completes our relationship with the old stories.
So it's very much like completion over initiation time, letting things finish before having to know what replaces it, allowing for that spaciousness, even if at times it feels empty. Okay.
Yeah.
The nature abhors a vacuum. It will be filled as long as we're focusing on the stuff that brings us life. So it's not so much about refilling that space. It's about allowing the emptying to happen right now.
Yeah. And it's like, can you be in the space between spaces? Can you coexist in both the practical, the mundane, right? Like the everyday life. But can I also exist in the realm of possibility and in the energy and in like, the stars and the moon? And can I play in the space between spaces and notice that things are shifting and changing and moving into a completely new direction where I haven't been before? And that's okay because this is the permission slip that I think all Virgos need. A lot of people that have strong Virgo placements, like you get to play in the gray. because, you know, I know a lot of Virgo people and they don't like being, there's no gray with Virgos. It's black and white. It's yes or no. It has to be super practical. If they want a, you know, like a Virgo will go up to like some kind of Buddhist monk and ask the Buddhist monk a question that they want a yes or a no for. And the Buddhist monk will give them an answer that is very philosophical, and they don't know what to do with that because it's not practical, it's not tangible, it's not yes or no or black or white. And so the gift with this full moon Virgo Pisces, you know, energy that we're moving into is giving yourself that permission to be in the gray, to be in the space between spaces, like, and to be comfortable in not like having everything to make complete sense and be like, you know, black,
Mm,
white, yes, no.
totally. Discernment without over analysis.
Yeah.
Because Virgo will keep beating that problem with a stick when Pisces is like, okay, we need to like let this go now. So finding that happy medium between the whole like over emotional permeability also with Pisces. Pisces feels very porous. Other people's emotions could be my emotions. We're confused between those two. So you might need more solitude, more water, more sleep, just to let the stuff simplify and discern what's yours, what's somebody else's. So having, allowing that emotional permeability, but creating some boundaries. So, um, what's again, leaning into that theme, what's alive, what's completing.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I think this is the kind of, you know, there's a lot more that we can go into for this particular full moon, but I think that we will keep the themes just on the eclipse for today and kind of what the overarching energy is and what the overarching invitation for all of us is. And then we can go into a little bit more detail and a little bit more depth with that when we do the weekly astrology updates on that particular day. Then we can bring in a little bit more of what the energies and the aspects of the other planets are and how they also kind of bring their own flavor and influence into this particular eclipse period. But I wanted to just kind of touch base on the larger picture of this eclipse so that, you know, we can really just kind of take the macrocosm of it all and just sort of bring it into that microcosm and just kind of see the, you know, like the thousand puzzle piece, like if you will, all the, you know, dislodged pieces and parts, and we can actually just kind of put it together and go, here, this is it, right? This is what we're working with, this is what we've been going through, this is what we've been asking to play with, see, experience, undergo. Um, and August is a representation, and these particular eclipses in the whole month energetically has been really like a very good reflection and a good mirror of what this whole year has been asking us to do ultimately since, you know, the beginning of January. And that with Saturn and Neptune and Aries and all the outer planets and fire and air and all of these things, and the fire horse, and the fact that we're in a number 10 or a 1, you know, from a numerological perspective. And so it's like the key theme has really just been like, can you stop giving your power away? Can you find your own sense of sovereignty? Can you become your own leader? Can you lead from your heart? Can you open yourself up to recalling the parts of you back, reclaiming these parts of you, letting go of identities and roles and aspects and stories that are just no longer fitted or comfortable? You know, it's like, I know we all have that favorite pair of jeans that we love, but if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Like, you know, you can't keep trying to force it on if it doesn't fit. You're going to have to let it go at some point, and that can be hard and that can be sad, but you're going to have to make a plan, right? Like, you're going to have to get comfortable with the fact that you have just simply outgrown certain things. And so August really is like a culmination of all of these different aspects of us, where it kind of sums up the year. And, you know, that theme of, can I become my own embodied sovereign? Can I lead from my heart? Can I trust? Can I step into more of who I am, who I've always been, who I want to be? Can I dream myself outside of the constraints of what society and culture and family and everyone else has placed upon me, or even that I have placed upon myself? Can I give myself permission to break free, break from, this is where Uranus comes in. It's like, can I break free from the molds and the stories and the conditions and the constraints and the beliefs that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not capable enough, or that I'm too old, or that I'm too young, or that I'm not smart, or that I'm not funny, or that I'm not capable? And can I instead become so convicted in my belief in myself that I know that I have this unbelievable capacity to just become this unreal, unimaginably beautiful version of self that leaves such a beautiful imprint for, on the collective, on humanity, in, the directions that we're heading into. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful month, and I just wanted to bring that in and share that. So that's it.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Yeah. Um, it's been an incredibly transformative year, and July and August have been kind of like the cherry on the top of the sundae, which can feel both inspiring and not, not so much. So, giving yourself the space. If you feel really disconnected from, the potential of bliss that always lives inside of you, come back to your breath. So, the science of breath reminds us that the transformative spark of bliss is active in the transformation from in breath to out breath, from out breath to in breath. So, our breath is the simplest way to come back to revisit that seed, that potential of bliss that lives inside of us, that can grow at any moment. And sometimes it feels more dormant,
Yeah.
always there. So, that's the simplest way to remember bliss lives inside me, even when going through and experiencing the most challenging things, releasing things that I felt always I needed to hold on to retain my safety or my sovereignty or something. And I'm finally feeling like I need to allow this to go. You know, your safety is right here in this moment. Your bliss is right here in this moment. So you can access all of those things inside of you without something else, somebody else. Remember, you are the container. You are the bliss. You are the experience of the divine moving through this body space. So just honor that space the best that you can when things feel challenging. Notice, soften, take the wisdom, and celebrate on all the other moments that you can.
Mm. Yeah, and I just want to drop a little thing in here. If the word bliss doesn't resonate with you, because I can feel some people are like, replace it with a word that does, like peace, right?
Sure.
Or joy, or whatever your word is. Just take what Kalina has said, because there's real wisdom in what she has just shared. And if the word bliss is not the word that you kind of, let clicks things into place for you, then maybe replace that with peace. But
Absolutely.
don't dismiss the message or ignore the wisdom of what she just shared because the word doesn't resonate.
Yeah. All three of those, bliss, peace, joy, those are all seeds that always live inside of us that we can find and kind of, play with and grow in even little momentary places, even in the most challenging places. So thank you so much for that, Eleni.
Thank you.
And thank you for such a great conversation. yeah, and some days may feel like, oh, I can feel everything coming in, and I notice how things are aligning and the synchronicity, and other days can feel a little bit more vacant. So just like through this weekend, just notice what's showing me that it's running its course, what's feeling complete, allow the completions. Monday, we're going to come in with some more day to day for the next week, leading up into the eclipse and then through it. So
Yeah.
we'll be present with you on Monday, and it may go live on Sunday even. So just take it easy this weekend and just notice what's coming through for yourself. Soften where you can, release the hard grips on things and give yourself a little bit more breath. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being present with us and in space. Oh, I also want to say, please remember to like and subscribe. Please share with us where you're tuning in from. We've got Eleni in Mauritius, so she's in like the south of the equator, on the opposite side of the world that I am in, like New York. So, you know, um, Eastern time, north of the equator. So we want to know where you're tuning in from, and feel free to also drop in like what your sign is, sun, moon, or rising, if you know any of those. Please feel free to share with us so we know, where you're coming from and what your kind of makeup is, so we can, speak to the people that are showing up for the
That would be
message.
great. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be fun. All right. Thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Thank you.
Love
Take
you.
care.